Number 10, Fragments of Papias. Quotations and citations from 4 apostolic elders who mentioned Papias. He was a companion of Polycarp, the convert of the Apostle John. Both Irenaeus and Eusebius and others quote him. He's mentioned by Papias, the first of 10 fragments. I. The writings of Papias in common circulation are 5 in number, and these are called an exposition of the oracles of the Lord, not lost, but quoted by others. Irenaeus makes mention of these as the only works written by him, in the following words. Open quote. Now testimony is borne to these things in writing by Papias, an ancient man, who was a hearer of John and a friend of Polycarp in the 4th of his books. For 5 books were composed by him. Close quote. Open quote. But I shall not be unwilling to put down, along with my interpretations, whatsoever instructions I received with care at any time from the elders, and stored up with care in my memory, assuring you at the same time of their truth. For I did not, like the multitude, take pleasure in those who spoke much, but in those who taught the truth, nor in those who related strange commandments, but in those who rehearsed the commandments given by the Lord to faith and proceeding from truth itself. If then anyone who had attended on the elders came, I asked minutely after their sayings, what Andrew or Peter said, or what was said by Philip, or by Thomas, or by James, or by John, or by Matthew, or by any other of the Lord's disciples, which things Aristion and the presbyter John, the disciples of the Lord, say. For I imagine that what was to be got from books was not so profitable to me as what came from the living and abiding voice. Close quote. See Paul's warning in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 about false letters in the name of the apostles. Open quote. The early Christians called those who practiced a godly guilelessness children, as is stated by Papias in the first book of the Lord's Expositions and by Clemens Alexandrinus in his Pedagogue. Close quote. Pliny the Younger makes it very clear. This is the kind of behavior Christians were known for. 3. Papias does precisely this, his description of Judas's body. He says, open quote, Judas walked about in this world a sad example of impiety, for his body having swollen to such an extent that he could not pass where a chariot could pass easily, he was crushed by the chariot, so that his bowels gushed out. Close quote. It's clear that Judas hung there for 4 days in a row, and I guarantee you he was bloated. Passover, unleavened bread, the holy day of first fruits, and throw in the Sabbath, all declared holy convocations or Sabbaths. Touching him or working to take him down would have been a criminal offense. He was definitely bloated. He hung there for 4 days, and on the 5th day, they took him down. It had to have been a horrible sight. IV, open quote, as the elders who saw John the disciple of the Lord remembered that they had heard from him how the Lord taught in regard to those times, and said, the days will come in which vines shall grow, having each 10,000 branches, close quote, open quote, and every grape when pressed will give 25 metrics of wine, close quote, open quote, and that all animals, feeding then only on the productions of the earth, would become peaceable and harmonious, and be in perfect subjection to man. Open quote, testimony is borne to these things in writing by Papias, an ancient man, who was a hearer of John and a friend of Polycarp in the 4th of his books, for 5 books were composed by him. Close quote, open quote. Now these things are credible to believers, close quote, open quote. And Judas the traitor, says he, not believing and asking, how shall such growths be accomplished by the Lord? The Lord said, they shall see who shall come to them, close quote. These, then, are the times mentioned by the prophet Isaiah, open quote, and the wolf shall lie down with the lamb, Isaiah 11 verse 6f, close quote, v. As the presbyters say, those who are deemed worthy of an abode in heaven shall go there. Others shall enjoy the delights of paradise, and others shall possess the splendor of the city. There is a distinction between those who produce an 100-fold, 60-fold, 30-fold. For the first will be taken up into the heavens, the second class will dwell in paradise, and the last will inhabit the city. Open quote, in my Father's house are many mansions, close quote. The presbyters, the disciples of the apostles, say that this is the gradation and arrangement of those who are saved. He was a premillennial Christian. In other words, he expected a kingdom to come on this planet that would be physical, fulfilling the Lord's prayer, thy kingdom come. In that kingdom age, the planet will be extremely fruitful. Joy will be everywhere. Vivis. Papias affirms that he received the sayings of the apostles from those who accompanied them, and that he personally heard Aristion and the presbyter John. He records the resurrection of a dead man, a miracle involving Justus Barsabbas swallowing deadly poison unharmed, unwritten traditions, strange parables and instructions, a millennium after the resurrection, the personal reign of Christ on this earth. He also hands down traditions from Aristion and the presbyter John. Open quote. Mark, having become the interpreter of Peter, wrote down accurately whatsoever he remembered. Close quote. Open quote. Matthew put together the oracles of the Lord in the Hebrew language. Close quote. Septon. Papias thus speaks, word for word. Open quote. To some of them, angels, he gave dominion over the arrangement of the world, and he commissioned them to exercise their dominion well. But it happened that their arrangement came to nothing. Close quote. 8. With regard to the inspiration of the book of Revelation, Papias, Irenaeus, Methodius, and Hippolytus bore entirely satisfactory testimony to it. An, Papias of Hierapolis, Clemens, Pantaenus, Ammonius, and other ancient expositors agreed that the 6 days of creation referred to Christ and the whole church. X. 1. Mary the mother of the Lord. 2. Mary the wife of Cleophas or Alphaeus. 3. Mary Salome, wife of Zebedee. 4. Mary Magdalene. James and Judas and Joseph were sons of an aunt of the Lord. James and John were sons of another aunt of the Lord. Some affirm that Mary of Cleophas and Mary Salome are the same person, having had 2 husbands.